Supposedly, this is streaming. Where? Now I need to figure out if it's actually streaming somewhere where I'm expecting, because I don't see it showing up on YouTube where I was expecting. Let's find out. It doesn't appear to be on here. Let's refresh this page. Maybe that's an issue. Okay, does not appear to be there. Let's switch accounts. Switch accounts. Let's try this one. Am I streaming here? Let's find out. Streams. See what I'm streaming already. Content. Would that show up in content? No, it's not there anyway. So somewhere I'm live streaming right now, and I have no idea where. Is that, let's just go to the channel. Is there something showing up on the channel live? Great. It's going to this one. That's not what I intended. Oh, well, whatever. Yeah, so I normally have a channel where I am streaming this out to for other stuff, but whatever. I'm going to start applying the live streams onto DVS devs. Why not? All right. So what I'm doing inside of this is this is not for some specific training or anything along those lines. I am just recording as I work. So in some cases, I have more time and ability to focus on a specific topic. And so I'm going to start recording this and doing it in 4K. Now, my other channel, which was over here, which was that Switch account, that was Devious No AI. Part of the reason for that was because there were several projects that I'm working on, such as a book I'm writing. And I want to make sure that there's a record of me actually creating this. So if I publish a book and let's say it actually is good, that I don't get I don't get hit on this. I'm trying to find the right words here. I don't get complaints where people say this is obviously AI. So I'm doing work and I want to express and show that that work's being done. Anyway, but yeah, this is related to stuff here. So the project I'm working on right now, let's see, is this in a running state? Build console. No, we got an error. What's the error? State could not be found. All right, well, let's find out. I can't run the example, but this is one of the Vigilante games. Why am I getting a whole bunch of errors here? Clear. That can go away. Visual Studio. Why Visual Studio? No. Open by extension. Okay, that's why. Writer. There we go. And let's go back to the code error, clear, and return to writer again. Okay, so it cannot find state because it's, oh, duh. That helps. No wonder I couldn't find it earlier. All right, so, oh yeah, now that that's working, I should be able to return to the visual of the game and demonstrate what it is that I'm working on. So I took version 41. I'm technically up to version 48 on different, or iteration 48 of different types of Vigilante Racer games that I was working on and experimenting with. This one had one of the latest systems for controlling how the player moves that I liked the most. It had more control over increasing the gravity to drop the car down, having the speed set by the actual gravity or how close you were to the ground. But of course, if you're too close to the ground, while you can go faster, you also crash easier because if you hit a wall, you can't correct and drive up the wall as easily. All right, but that's in place. Let's go over to this one and play. Oh, scene, play. I've got, this is a truck prefab, or it's going to be a train, I think. Oh, my camera's still way back there. What is all this? What's all this no reference business I got going on here? Let's take a look at that in this for a second. All right, so in this one, what do we have? No, I want to look at the camera. The camera was set to like 140. There it is, 140. What do we want? 30? Wait, I can't see what I'm looking at. Games. What do I want? I'll just set this to 30. I don't think that was the answer, but let's try it. 30 and play. And then I'll figure out it's car driver that's complaining. Okay. Ooh, that's pretty well zoomed in. Uh, okay, well, whatever the case is there, it doesn't like it. Did I change a folder? No. Car driver, line 31. I have to fix errors. So over here, it's a steering action that it doesn't think exists. Something about that must have moved. All right, so let's go over to the car, and what do we have? Car driver. None of the input actions are set. Okay, for steering, let's set it. I want steering. Look, jump, move. So it's probably move. All right, down, down. Does it have like up, left, and right? Doesn't look like it. Okay, so down must be it. And the other one is strafe. Do I have one for strafe? Yay, okay. I have move and steering. I don't have steering in this, so I'll go with move. Let's see. Play. This is really close. No, no, no. Go back up this way. Okay, that is not working as well. That feels like it's doing a lerp too. It's jittery here. Oh, I'm also running this on 4K. This is the first time I'm recording this in 4K, so I probably have some performance issues. What am I running at? 70 FPS. If it's 70 FPS and it feels choppy, then that means that there's something wrong with the way the camera's moving. The camera motion is choppy then, or some other motion inside the game is choppy. Oh, but that script is working. All right, so the area that I'm working on right now is trying to create a controller for the freight. The freight, I have a set of tasks in here. Let's go over to this. So the task I'm working on right now is a freight cube. I'm going to move that over here. The freight cube, I suppose I can expand this out. Zoom. Oh, I just switched over to Obsidian. I was using Mark Text. Controls scroll would zoom in on the scale, would scale the size of the text. I don't have that option now. What can I do? Editor. On this stuff, do we just have a font size in here or something? Not that I can see. All right, search panel. Unity, no. What is that? Obsidian. Zoom text. Control plus minus. Okay, well, let's try that. Oh, that's the whole project. Okay, well, whatever. All right, so over here, all right, so this is the basic idea of Vigilante 41. It's supposed to be a very small game. I want to make something. I'm going to try to get it out in about 10 days. Maybe under 2 weeks is what my goal is. And inside of this, I've got Vigilante 41 small design. The core element is that while we're driving around, you've got the anti-gravity racer. We're going to collect parts. We're going to break them off of trucks and find them. We're going to sell them at shops. We're going to buy upgrades. We're going to combine this with racing point to point, but set up a few target races. Ones where the player can race from one point to another, which will be named. Over time, the players will learn about their environment and they will want to beat old times. That's kind of the objective I'm going for. And so everything is about leading to helping the player want to replay that over and over. Well, the specific element is that's minor in comparison. That was the initial idea I was building it off of. The rest of the ideas that were coming into this, the rest of the mechanics, because I have a list over here of core mechanics going into the game to prepare for that. Anyway, so from the core mechanics, I'm working on the task create a freight cube. So the freight gets driven around on the trucks, which was here's one of the trucks. This is the front of it. I don't have any special lighting on. I should turn that back on. Oh, it looks terrible. I don't have any lighting on this at all. I'll have to adjust that. Okay. Anyway, so we'll deal with that in a few minutes. But the idea is that this will be floating and driving around like I can in the game, except it'll be slower and I can hit the cubes and knock them off of it. Now, the cubes will stay stationary to the actual freight, so to the truck, the semi. So I have the tractor, I have a car, I have the car caboose. And given the fact that I can do this, I could probably set this up so it's actually more like a train and that the freight is traveling in large, it's just traveling and there's a whole lot of these cars traveling with it. And it's got the main driver element, which is kind of dragging it all around. But then cubes lay on this. So this can have 2 cubes. This one can have 1. However, by the design of this, this one has the anti-gravity engines in it, at least with more force. And so does this one, but it's primarily just to support the driver. Well, this one has just a little bit. It can support 1, and I can put maybe a couple of these in here, and then I have to space it out and have one of these every 1 to 3 cars that show up in there. That's the consideration. And of course, 2 cubes can sit on there. All right, now if I knock one of these off, then physics turns on the cube. That's the objective. I knock that off, physics turns on the cube. Let's go to the code for a second. And the state that we had for freight. If I expand this out, lock on trailer, that's the first one. It means that physics is off. It's just going to, it's assuming it'll act as a child and it has been set up as that child. The next one is follow racer. Basically, we knock this off and it could go into chaos mode, which means free falling physics. And then if we press the action button, that's going to tell it to follow the racer. So when we follow the racer, we are then going to, where is this? Oh yeah, we follow the racer. It's supposed to tether behind the racer, but it's more like levitating behind it and it can bump into things. And it can also get stuck. And stuck basically just means that if I let it go, I'm not controlling it, the truck's not controlling it, and it has come to a standstill. Then it will turn gravity, it will turn physics off again, doesn't bother to process anything. Now, rigid body is going to do that anyway, but I'd rather take more direct control of when and how that reactivates. So basic by default, once it stays stuck, it's permanent unless I use an action to reset it. Part of the reason for this is because as I'm dropping the cubes, I can drop them off at depots to collect credits, or I can uh, set them places and basically create a new world in the game. So if I've got this track, oh, my visuals were terrible. I think maybe it was 45 or 60 degrees for the field of view. So let's set that up. Main camera, let's try. Okay, that seems better. Also, let's expand that out. Okay, that's 1080p there. It's doing the full 1080p. That works. I don't need the full thing in there though. Turn off the stats. 200 FPS. Great. Okay. What do we set at for this? That's 62, so it was 60. That'll do. All right, we're going to change this. This is main camera 60. All right, that's saved. And return back to the game. This should be a slightly better camera movement. All right, let's see if I can find a spot where I've got a good view. But you can see into this city that there's a lot of things going on here, and they're actually in all sorts of different directions. I'm going to go into the scene view for a second, and let's take a look around here. So this is the environment that we're driving on. It's an anti-gravity racer, and we can travel through these routes inside of here. And that's the objective of this. It's one big closed-in city where, depending on where I'm going, I'll end up at different surfaces. Oh, get out of there. I was inside a closed space. Oh, did I just... There's a break. That's a spot that exits. Wait a minute. Oh, I was stuck in a bigger cube. Okay, got it. So while I was inside of here, yeah, there were things, but I was already inside of a surface. There's cleanup that I have to do on this. Okay, but anyway, while I'm inside of here, yeah, I can just travel around, and that's the objective of this. Anti-gravity, it's an entire city that's in here, and it comes in, it's basically a cube all the way around. So if I zoom out all the way, there we are. Now let's also turn on the fog, or off the fog. Probably would have been better if I just had that off to begin with. Can I turn regular lighting on? It's not exactly regular. Huh, got overlap over there. Whatever. Those are things to clean up. But this is the world that I can drive around in and race. So let's go back to the car. There it is. What? Oh, I'm in game. Got it. Okay. Stop. Car. Much better. Oh, all right. So back to the tasks. What are my tasks? Oh, also, let's turn that on and go back to here. Let's go look for... No one's watching. It's just me. One watching now. Is that me? Probably. Okay. All right, let's move this back over here. This way I can at least monitor the chat. Let's keep them muted. All right, so freight. Freight is the area that I'm working on. Let's get back to the code. So we are inside of Rider. We've got those states. Part of the reason I explain it out loud is because I also want to explain it to myself before I start building it. Now, the last thing, these are, yeah, so I wanted to be able to change states. And so I need some function to be able to set and change those states. Initially, the state is supposed to be lock on trailer. That's where the freight appears to begin with. Might not always be that state though, initially. For now, that's exactly where it's supposed to show up. So in this case, we also need to know what the trailer is, not the trailer itself, but the anchor on the trailer. So we're going to say transform trailer anchor. Okay, so if we're locked on a trailer, then that's our spot. In that case, then this object should be a collider. If the collider, oh, sorry, what was the term for it? It's not a collider. Come back here. It's a trigger. It is a collider, but it's a trigger. So the trigger, when we overlap it, then it's going to set off the trigger, and then we will turn the physics on. That will cause it to jump off of the object because the car will overlap it a little bit. Let's test this. We should be able to have it locked right now. When we're doing this test, we'll just anchor it to the other object and then it'll turn on. So in this case, we got the trailer anchor. And when I would take this, I'm going to want to set the gravity so that the gravity is going to drop it in the same orientation as that as the truck. That means I need to have gravity set up on that one. Okay, so inside of this system, we don't use standard gravity across rigid body. So if I select this object, let's go to the tractor and I'm going to put it on this one. So for the trailer car, let's just make sure that none of these child objects have anything. It just renders. There's no collider, anything like that. Perfect. Actually, the cube should have a collider. Oh, it doesn't. The whole car should have colliders. I still need to be able to determine where that is. I'm not, if anyone is aware of the PRF physics system I was working on, this is not implementing the PRF physics. There are a few things that I need to work out on that to be able to use it in a larger scale system. And for trying to get a game out in 2 weeks, it's not ready. Sort of like ECS. How with ECS, you can get much higher performance, but there's a lot of the tooling and things that you need to recreate from scratch, which for me is going to include certain design tools. All right, so inside of this, I need to create a collider. So we're going to go with collider. We'll do a box collider. That works. Okay, great. Now we got the box collider. What is it? Oh, okay, it's right there. Doing whatever it's doing up there. Now let's go to edit that and let's change our perspective. Sure. Align the edges. It's very cubic. That's one of the things I really like about some of the sci-fi stuff, at least especially in this case, because you can get away with a lot of boxy shapes. Of course, it's also freight, so freight is very boxy to begin with. All right, now let's switch angles and adjust that to match there. All right, cool. And I should probably add that to all of them, but this is the one that I care about now. So I'm going to put the car in there. The cube, the freight cube, I'm going to set that as a child of this element for right now, because that's effectively what's going to happen anyway. All right. So trailer, we got freight cube. Freight cube can stay here. It is going to need to be aware of its physics. It's going to have to turn that on, so I'm going to need a box collider on that as well. Let's edit it. Want to go to that side. One to there. One to there. One to there. I wonder if that's going to auto collide with this. Actually, That would be good. I'm going to give it a little bit of a collider to purposefully overlap with the element below it. So this one, yeah, the colliders overlap. The reason I'm doing that is so that when the rigid body gets activated on this one, there's an additional force that will help push it off. So a light bump will get it to fall off of this much easier. All right, now let's change the angle, get the other sides, and there, and there. All right, so Freight Cube is set up. It's got a collider. We also need to give it a rigid body. Rigid body is on. We're not going to use gravity. Automatic center of gravity, sure. We're going to set the physics numbers. Let's go to linear and angular dampening to 5. I need the car script, which is over here. Let's grab one that already exists and is set up. I don't need a car driver in this case. Car will just stabilize the car. That's all it does. It just stabilizes it against the world that it is. The driver is the one that's reacting to arrow key presses and applying additional forces, telling it to apply additional forces. Now, it also just gives commands to the function calls to the car that actually do the application of the forces to mix in with its own. All right, so I'm going to copy that component and let's go over to the trailer car and go V. Oh, why doesn't Control V work in here? It feels like it should. I really love Blender on the way that it deals with hotkeys. What area your mouse is over is what the hotkey definition is. So if I have my hotkey in here and I say Control A, or just hit A, that would select all the objects in the scene. And if I have my mouse over here over a list and I press A, it's going to select all the objects in the list. Really love that one. I wish Unity would do the same thing, because then I could have Control C, Control V. I have a component in here, but I have to right click and paste the component as new. Why doesn't Control V work here? All right. So this is in here. Now its rigid body is pointing to the original car. So we're going to drag that over to ours. We don't have a rigid body in here. Let's add it. Rigid body. We're going to set that to 5 and 5. And then we're going to go to use gravity. No, thank you. Control C. There. Control C. No. Control S twice to save scene, save project. All right, so this one should be working now. I don't need the engine offsets to be the same. Let's go over to, do I have this stuff selected? I don't have any debug tools showing that information yet. Okay, so the car script, let's go with engine offsets of 2 and 2. Is that upside down? That looks like it's upside down. All right, trailer car. Select you. Wow, that is upside down. No, it's sideways. That's because the whole object is rotated sideways. Not what I wanted. Okay. I'll fix that in a moment. I need to fix this part now. So we're going to reset the base object to 0. In order to do that, I'm going to select the child objects, move them out of here. The root prefab. Oh, I hate that. Okay, fine. Cancel. These all have it. The tractor has it too, right? Tractor has it, trailer caboose. Everything got rotated by 90 degrees to change the axis over from going from Blender to Unity. All right, well, let's fix it. So in that case, the prefabs aren't going to work. Let's go to each of these, including the cube. I need that cube out of there. Prefab and unpack there. I'm also going to delete these ones. delete. That's my prefabs. Okay, now that I have each of these prefabs, I'm going to start with the tractor, and we're going to drag all the items from there, which have a rotation of nothing, out to the root, which now have a rotation of 90, negative 90. We'll go to the tractor. We're going to set this back up at 0. Enter. Next, we're going to select all the tractor cubes and put them back. There. Now, this item is level. It's flat. It's what I was expecting. The children are the ones that are modified. Okay, next. All right, this one, we can do this with all of them. And that rotation is going to get set to 0. Good, thank you. Now with each of them, I'm going to select trailer car, and now brake cube there, and then trailer caboose. Where's the, oh, without selecting the root element. Okay, that looks much better. Now let's put these back as prefabs again. So prefabs, yay. Okay, now trailer caboose. No, trailer car. This one tells me where its gravity is set up. I don't need its offset to move down that far. We're going to have its offset change position. It's got a Y of 17. Let's move that up a little bit. Now, its distance off the ground, I do want the freight to be farther off the ground when it's traveling. It's supposed to have an emphasis on it that it's big. The scale on this shrunk in half. Okay. Let's double the sizes of each of these objects. If I go into more stuff to do inside of these. Now, if I just up the scale to 2, is that actually going to do anything? And why do I have different scale sizes in here? What? I have a scale that's not set coming out of Blender. Okay, this must be Unity fans work for that one. All right. So this is the artwork from this one, from the car, that car and this truck are both created by Unity fan. I did not create these trucks. I am not this good of a sci-fi artist. And right now the lighting and all the setup for the textures isn't here, and some of the additional materials on this are missing, which is basically just some little notches that glow along the sides. So it does look better than what we're seeing right now. However, that means that when he designed it, he had some purposes in mind and he built it for what he needed, and it worked. In my case, I wanted each of the items to be separatable, so I had to modify some of the stuff in Blender. And now let's see, is this one also? Scale is 1 on here. That one's not. Okay, well, we're going to go back into Blender for a second, and I want to reset all the stuff that's inside of there. So here's all my stuff from Blender. Hey, come back here. All right, yeah, the metals and the way, or the materials in use on here, this is roughly more what it's supposed to look like when it's running in Unity with all the effects on. All right, I need to apply all the offsets. I need to apply the, well, I don't remember how to do this. Let's go into this. I'm going to search for that. Inside of here, we're going to say Blender. What was the term for it? Okay, so with Blender, apply all scale. translation. To 1. Same with rotation. There we go. Control A, scale, then you have 1. What? Control A, scale. Okay. So A, Control A, apply scale. Okay. Got it. Control A, apply rotation. Control A, apply location. Did I just see a shift? I think I did. Okay, well, let's turn a few objects on and off. The tractor offsets seem okay. Oh, no, that's not. I don't think this black was supposed to be there. Let's expand that out, and I'm going to go to this. Hello. There, I think that's it. Now, G, Z. Oh, okay. There is nothing on the bottom here. All right, so it does just go straight to black. Okay, that's correct then. Turn those back on, and do I need to rebuild those again? Probably. All right, Control S, save that, return to here, and then if I go back into this, yeah, everything moved. Also, its scales aren't right, so I've just got to reset all of that. Yay. What is this doing? That was definitely not like that before. Okay, there was at least one thing that moved then. All right, that was the car, the freight. Okay. Turn off, turn off, turn off. All right. No, not the freight. It's the car. Yeah, okay, look at this. In the car, we've got the metallic reaching the top. When I run this in here, it's overlapping with the bottom materials. Why? Scaling. The scaling, everything was reset. This has scales, rotations applied to it. That information has gotten lost in here, so I literally cannot use these things as is right now. Yay. Delete. Okay, start this one again. Drag in the freight. Okay, let's drag the whole thing up. There. How's the size comparison? That's tiny. So we're going to scale everything to 2. Freight's supposed to be larger here. That is better. Basically, this back one should be big enough to haul the car if we wanted it to. Ooh, that could be one of the things I do. That could be the way that we upgrade a car. All right, move this up higher. Nope. Select all 3. All right, so this one is 0, 0, 0. Yeah, okay, that doesn't work. Drag that up here. It is above the ground. Good. Now we got those scales in there. Next, I need to create the root objects. Oh, let's duplicate all this stuff. D. And put that up and above. There. I can get rid of this one. Good. Yeah, we'll just clear it from the scene. All right, so now I need, what do we here? We have a rotation of 89. Okay. Now, if I were to create a game object on this, I'm setting it to match the position. The rotation's what's getting messed up here. So I need to set the rotation back when I finish this. All right, so we're going to call this a freight. It's a freight cube. It's our heart cube. Now I move that here. Now freight has a rotation. We're going to reset the rotation on it. We're also going to reset the scale. And now we move that as child elements of freight. Great, that one's done. Okay, so the freight cube is in. There we go, done. Freight cube also needs to, does the freight cube need to have hover physics? No, it's got something different. It'll need a custom, its own script, the script we were working on. Okay, so freight is set up. Next, I need the tractor. All right, so let's go to tractor. We're going to create empty and call it tractor. We're going to move that out of there into the root space. We're going to set this to 0 tab 111. Now we will move tractor cube as a child element of it. There, excellent. Move that out of the way, good. Now we need the car. Create empty, and we're going to call this car. Let's move to there. Rotation. Okay, everything looks good there. Let's drag that one over. Good. And then the last one is the caboose. Okay, hopefully I don't have any damaging stuff. Hey, if anyone knows shortcuts to this, if you happen to be watching this and you know shortcuts in Blender that could have saved me some headache there, please share them. That's something I run into somewhat regularly, and I'm not an expert in Blender. I can do a decent amount, but yeah, I'm sure there's shortcuts to improve a lot of the stuff that I work on, a lot of my workflow. Whoa, what's going on there? Oh, I've still got the old prefabs. Delete those. Right through car, selected, into prefabs. Okay, now let's see if I can get that car finished for now. Not the car. Yeah, the car. That's the one that I want on here. So on this, I need to add the hover physics, which, is this still here? If I select this one, can I go paste? Component is new, and it's got the car. Excellent. Now we need to add the rigid body, and we need to add a collider. All right, rigid body gets this one, and then the collider that we have, we're going to edit the collider. Okay, yeah, the numbers look much more natural there. Now let's reset our collider. So we're going to go to here, set that, and now we're going to go select the car, move that over, that one as well, drop down, and drop down. Is this just seeing something behind it? Oh, wrong keys there. Okay, that seems correct. Yeah. Now let's go over to this one and switch to 2D. There and there. Oh, yeah, and let's put that overlap a little bit there. It'll give it more of a pop when it comes out. I could just apply extra force on that impact. You know what? I'm going to do that. I'm going to keep the colliders correct and put the pop into the scripts. All right, so we got the car. Next, physics, no gravity. Dampening, we're going to put 5 and 5. The numbers are more extreme in this. Actually, what is my car set to? Physics is set to 6. Okay, let's do that. Oh, let's just copy this one. Copy. Cool. All right, now that is going into car, and the car rigid body is paste component values. Perfect. Now I know that rigid body is set up. However, this is a smaller object, so its numbers aren't going to match completely. Okay, this has its push away where it's pushing away from other objects. Now, in this one, I don't want it to be pushing away from the other objects that are here. But I also need to make sure that the parent element, I could give it more spacing between these to solve that. Okay, I want to make sure that the tractor, this part, the cab, can move up the walls. So its transition, it needs to have that farther forward distance to be able to see that there's a wall there. Now, there is a driving physics check in this where the amount of gravity needed. Oh, I could tune the numbers of the semi to operate differently. Okay. The problem that I was facing is that when I'm driving into a wall that goes up and I need to do 90 degrees up, I need to go at normal speed. And then the booster is actually just forcing additional gravity on the car. So as the car is coming up this wall and needs to go here this way, so it suddenly drops down, the gravity, it takes gravity and reapplies it. It's basically putting so much force on the gravity that as it starts getting closer, it tips the car over the edge, even at a higher speed. And so it basically drives from one surface to the next. And so you have to switch off of those two different modes. Now, this one is going to operate a little bit differently. I suppose I could put a physics chain on these. No. I'm just going to put a little bit of a chase system inside of there, so one chases the other. All right, not a driving chase. It'll be more like an anchor. So yeah, I guess a joint. It's like a joint, a physics joint. All right, whatever. These will push each other away, and that's fine. Next, the freight is the next element that I'm looking at here. You know, I'm going to move these items farther away. Let's take the car and move that a little farther away as well. There. All right, freight needs some effects on here, so we're going to add box collider, and I can set that now while I'm here. I wish that coloring would align to what's on my screen. Light green on silver is really hard to see where these lines are. Okay, so I got the physics on for that side. Now let's rotate to the other. Same thing. Cool. So both of those have that. Now we're going to put in the rigid body. Rigid body, I'm going to put the same physics information, which might need to be adjusted because the size of the object is different. Yeah, just the rigid body. It does need a rigid body, but it's going to be a different rigid body. It's not operating on that level of linear dampening or angular dampening. The linear dampening and angular dampening help act as a friction or a cushion on the way it smooths out the ride. So as I'm adding forces and those forces change on a gravity system rapidly, the dampening is helping to soften the impact of how jarring that is to experience on the camera. And the camera chasers, that's going to need more code to alter it and deal with. But for now, that's what I got. It's not doing too bad at the moment. All right, so inside of here now, let's go to, we got the car, we got the freight. This one does need that freight script. So there's freight, lock on trailer. We want the trailer anchor. For the time being, that's just going to be the car underneath. So first off, in this one, we're going to set, this is a child element for the time being, and its anchor will just literally be that other object. Cool. We'll set this up afterwards with a script that automatically places that. Okay, that cube is set up. The car is set up. The car has physics. So theoretically, this one should start rocking and controlling when it's running. So let's turn this off of 2D and play. See what happens. Huh. Oh, yeah, physics is on. And then this just tipped it off of it. Oh, I like that. Okay, that's cool. All right. Let's get the camera into the right view to begin with so I don't have to correct. The camera chases into the right position. So if the car automatically moves, the camera will fly across the scene within about a half a second to be able to see its target. But that also means that if I'm just like facing the opposite direction with the camera, then I can't see what's going on right away. So let's go to our main camera and Control Shift F. We'll set it closer to this and hit play. I want to see what happens there. Oh, and pause. There. Now let's watch what happens with this one. Next frame. Yeah, physics is pushing it off. Oh, that's kind of nice. And that's because this is so close to the wall there. They just shoved that off. All right. Now, if I change this, and to begin with, I have that rigid body off. So I take the freight and I take my rigid body and what was it? Is kinematic. We're going to turn on is kinematic. Gravity is not supposed to be on yet. All right. So play. This is effectively going to stay stationary on that object. So now when this corrects, forces still apply. I'm doing that wrong. What am I doing wrong? What am I doing wrong? Collider. We've got a box collider. It's acting solid. Is kinematic. That's what I want, right? Is kinematic? Did I turn something else kinematic? There. Now it's a permanent child element of it. Oh, is it also affecting the mass? It's affecting the mass, isn't it? So if I were to go over to scene, and so the game is still running live right now. If I move this, look at that. The mass affects it. Oh, got it. That is interesting. If I have a child element and it has its own collider, and there's a rigid body on this parent element, so the elements don't move from each other, but they overlap on the collider, then the rigid body is going to keep pushing away from it. So that kept pushing it down. So when I drag this down, as soon as those colliders cross, it drops it down. Now, if I had that up higher, and let's say I pause it, and then I drag this down to overlap a little bit more, when I unpause it, it should drop down fast. Yeah, it was much faster that time. Okay, cool. I did not know about that. I mean, it makes sense that this is what happens with it. There. So this is the state it's supposed to be in by default. And that works. All right, next. What do we got? Also, there's a big gap here that just came in the package that it had this big gap. But it does seem like just that building component. Yes, zone A, thank you. Needs to be dropped down a little bit. So it plugs in. And in that case, let's just take the Y. There. That should fix that. Cool. That probably means that there's other things that have that effect too. No, that one's clean. It was just that one. Okay. All right, so that one is fixed. Well, actually, can I maybe raising it up would be a little better. Because I've got that different border edge down there, and that's kind of nice. Now, we'll just keep it that way. When it had that extra border to the building, it kind of made it look like right now, it just looks like two materials pushed up right against each other at an odd position. So, but that's cleanup for later. Polish to add. All right, so that's inside of there. Next, I need my component attached to the car. The car needs to get freight. So where's freight? Freight is here, and now it's there. We need the anchor, which is the car itself. Technically, I don't need the anchor because I'm setting it off of the anchor. That just means that I could move it into the root space, set the parent to null. Okay, yeah, I don't need to know the anchor. Cool. Let's go back to freight. I'm going to get rid of target anchor, delete, and Control S. Now that we got the state, public void. With this one, we need to be able to reset that state. I also should put a validator on here, so if I change the state, it'll automatically make that transition effect. Let's also put in a kind of a pop-off effect. So when we hit the cube, it has something else that happens. All right, so public, I'll do that later. What's the minimum I need right now? Okay, if it moves, we just need to knock that off, and then it reactivates. If it moves less than X a turn, the physics turns off. And if the position moves, we'll deactivate it. I'm putting a lot more focus on here. I don't need to follow racer. I don't need chaos yet. I don't need stuck. I just need lock on trailer and go to chaos. So yeah, chaos. We'll change to that state. In that case, public void set chaos. All right, so with chaos, we're going to say that not if, it'll just be the state. We'll just assume that it's being used correctly. State equals this dot state equals state dot chaos. Yes. We need the rigid body reference. The element, yeah, we need the rigid body. This is for the freight. It's going to be for the same one that's on this one. So I'll still just make a reference to it. Public rigid body body dot add explosive force, and in this one the float explosive force, the explosion position, we're going to say the explosive force is going to be 1F. That I've never added explosive force, and I'm usually setting this with larger or with smaller numbers. Let's try 1 and just see what it does for now. Comma, and its position offset, where is that center of the explosion, is the next item that we're looking for. So that should be just below it. And we're going to say body dot position. Yes. Minus transform dot down up minus negative transform dot up times 0.1f. So this sends it down by 10 centimeters. Where the explosion was happening, the explosion radius is 1 meter. Let's set it down half a meter there. Oh, yeah, it needs more fields. What's the next one? So explosion radius. Oh, force and radius. Okay, that first one wasn't radius. All right, so we'll just go with 1F there. This one, I'm not sure how much force we need. Oh, that's like the newtons of force it's going to apply. In that case, we were looking at numbers around 100, I believe, for the gravity. So let's go into this. Let's just say 100. Might be way too massive, but we'll find out. I guess it's going to be around 50 because it's half the distance away. But it's a logarithmic fall off, I believe, for an explosion. But whatever. We'll just see what it feels like. I have nothing to call that yet. So inside of here, I want the ability to call this. I'm just going to add a little validator script. Public bool set chaos trigger chaos equals false. Public void awake, not awake. Public void on, what's the item that I need? On something. 1130. That's interesting. Okay, I'm gonna bring that up in a moment. On validate. And I've got an extra bracket in there now. So on validate, when we do trigger chaos in this one, if trigger chaos, then we're going to say trigger chaos equals false and set chaos. All right, so we should be able to trigger the chaos mode. Let's return back to the game. All right, now let's try it out. Oh, rigid body is currently kinematic. I need to turn that feature off as well. So that's another step that's going to be happening on it. So in this one, before we add the explosive force, because I assume it's going to pay attention to the state. If it's kinematic, it's going to ignore an explosive force. Body dot is kinematic equals True. False. It's chaos. We want physics to apply. Now let's play this. And when I trigger that mode change, so if I go over here to freight, the cube is attached to there. And now let's alter the value. So we're watching that cube and trigger chaos. Oh, I don't have it set. I need the rigid body in here. Play. All right, trigger chaos. Yeah, it didn't take it needs to know the item that it's anchored from to take the chaos, or to take the gravity from. All right, so we're going to need to know the gravity normal. Public vector 3 gravity normal, and public vector 3 is this one force. We need power. Public float gravity force equals 100F. It's probably way too much, but we do need to turn that on. All right, so in this case, in order to do that, we need an update that's going to be happening on this public void update, fixed update, because we want this to operate with physics. So we should implement the physics changes inside of fixed update. And inside of this, when we want a gravity force, but we only want to do it when the state is in chaos. So if not state this dot state, if this dot state does not equal state dot chaos, then return. We don't care about it at that point. We'll fix that later because it'll have states that we care about. All right, but for now it does not. In this case, we want to know body. Oh, what are we doing here? So we've got this. We're adding the force, setting the chaos. That can go away. Yeah, sure. Update now. Do your thing. Sorry, I had some update notes going on. Next, yes. Great. That killed the network. So I've got a brief disconnect in my network. Is it reconnecting? Okay, successfully reconnected. Good. The item that I was restarting was my VPN. All right. If this.chaos, so in this case, we turn the kinematic on. What was the other item that we needed to do? So we added the explosive force, we set the chaos, we need the gravity to start. We need to apply the gravity, and we need to capture the gravity. We need to reference where we're getting that gravity from. So in this case, we're going to say public car. It's just car. All right. Car. All right. And in that case, if we have this, here's an interesting thing to consider when you're working with Unity. I can put if checks into all of my code to make sure that, hey, if this object is null, uh, then don't depend on it. Use something else. But think about one thing I think a lot of us need to consider is that if we've got a state that is not the way that we're expecting it to be, fix it. Like, why are we fixing our code to deal with scenarios to cleanly step back from them when the results of it are not going to be what we want? No, it's always supposed to have a reference. So uh, if I have a lock on a trailer, then I need to be able to I need to know the car. The trailer is a car. So I'm just going to trust that car is set. And if it's not, I get an exception in my code. I want to make sure those are resolved. That's what my testing should be. Granted, there are some times where there's so many different layers of how that happens that it's easy for something to be missed and for it to be added on and dealt with after the fact. Not what I'm looking for here. All right, so car should have a gravity normal, car.gravity. This dot car dot. Why is car not showing up? Oh, I've got a different namespace in there. Well, let's do that. Freight is now going to be inside of here as well. No, it's in it. Okay, why can I not see car? Freight is in here. We've got car. Is it not called car? Okay, we got our structs for engine model, struct car model, car. It's just a car. It's public. It sits inside of DVS.vigilante, and freight sits inside of DVS vigilante, and I've got car. This dot. What am I doing wrong? Why does IntelliSense not work on here? I've turned the AI modes off. But I run into lots and lots of times inside of Rider where variable names and IntelliSense doesn't show up. Why doesn't it like car? And why, when I'm highlighting car, does it think rigid body, public class rigid body? That's not what car is. No, this is something is seriously broken in that thing. Okay, let's close this and restart that one when I get the chance. I've used Visual Studio primarily and Collider a lot, or Rider as well, but I've tended to like Visual Studio the most. Visual Studio seems to be more mentally set up for architecture. So when you're dealing with architecture, you're dealing with solid frameworks, you're dealing with how everything interacts between different classes. I've tended to find that works a lot better. And I tend to find myself often in architecture. So Visual Studio helped me think better. Now, there's also a possibility that because I don't use Rider as much as Visual Studio, that the me thinking better is actually just from the fact that I know Visual Studio's sense of how it moves around and not as much on Rider. But at the same time, I get effects that I expect. Okay, now it just worked. It just restarting this made it understand that car exists all of a sudden, which means I should have IntelliSense back. This dot car, I do. Okay. Was there some status symbol or something that was showing up in here that would have let me see that there was something wrong and I could have fixed it by pressing a button and it resets it, or a hotkey? That'd be nice to know. All right, let's look for gravity. And I don't have a gravity normal in here. Okay, let's go to car. Car F12. Okay, car type F12. There. Now, where's our gravity? Gravity. Did I not call it gravity? That information stored in the car model, isn't it? So if I go up to car model has a gravity normal. Okay. So car model is Why is it not highlighted? Okay, this is a bit of a pain. Wait, did I not have that selected? I had gravity normal selected. Okay, so car model, let's go down to here. Car model gets highlighted. Good, excellent. So I can find what I'm doing that way. Car model, that's inside of car. So do I have car public? Public, probably everything's public right now. Car. Where's car? Oh, car model. Model is the item that's public. Good. So inside of this one, I want freight, and this one is going to call on car dot model dot gravity normal. Gravity normal in this case is the direction that the gravity is being pushed on. Now this is normal, so it's 1 meter per second, or 1 meter per 1 unit. Okay. Now, in this case, I need to be able to reapply that. So I need to grab what the gravity normal was at that time. So I'm going to say this dot gravity normal equals. Now, in the fixed update, we're going to apply gravity. So we're going to say, you know what? I'm going to switch this the other way around. Let's just do equals equals if it equals this dot chaos. Now, this one is going to be body dot add force. And on this one, we're going to say gravity force normal, gravity normal times gravity force times time dot delta time. What's this complaining about? Oh, it's inefficient for its time because I multiplied this one times. I take it by taking the. This took me a minute before to figure out what was going wrong with this, but in this case, I'm multiplying vector 3 by a float by another float, and it said this is inefficient in how it's set up. And basically, that's because as soon as I multiply these two together, it operates in PEMDAS. So multipliers, they're the first multiplier I come across, I'm going to run that one. And then I'll run the next one, which means that I have to run this multiplication on X, Y, and Z separately for the gravity force. And then do it again for the other one. So that ends up being 6 multiplication operations, where I could have done these two times each other and then times the other ones, the X, Y, and Z, which would have made 4. So, however, while I could fix this by just putting gravity normal on the other side, I have a feeling that that is a useless change. I'm pretty sure that the compiler would be intelligent enough to determine that the types and the multiplication on it wouldn't. That's a structure defined in C#. It's not going to understand that it's doing the multiplication of those different things across unless it combines the code, which I think, I just want to check on this, but gravity force multiplier, so the vector 3, that one is what I want to check on here. So F12 and my vector 3 F12, let's load up the code. Yes, fine, just do this. All right. There's a function on this. So when I do the multiply, let's just try to find the multiplier in this. Oh, duh, I can just click up here and then, okay, how do I do this? Inside of Visual Studio, I get drop downs at the top that indicate what are the objects inside of here, and then what are the fields or members of that, and I can select those from a drop down, and it takes me there. I don't see that up here. I assume maybe it's got a way to do that in Rider, but I don't know how. All right. So let's continue down, and what I'm looking for is the multiply. Now I could do a search for Control F. Oh, there we go. star. But I have to search through star of all these different things. Static vector 3 lerp unclamped. That's not what I'm looking for. What I'm looking for are static multiplier, the overrides or the overloads. Operator overloads. Operator. Control F. Operator. There we go. Plus, minus, times. Vector 3. So we multiply A and D. I wonder why they did D instead of B. It feels odd. One of the reasons I ask is just because when I think about this, there's like, is there a mentality to switching to A and D in this case? And when I'm seeing an odd variable name, that's making me question that. And maybe it's just an accident. Maybe they typed D instead of B, but it might hold a different meaning, like a purposeful meaning in what this is multiplying, what the A and what the D. Maybe the D stands for something here. All right. But yeah, it applies each one of these. Aggressive inlining. That's what I was looking for in this one. So aggressive inlining means that when it compiles this code, um, it's telling the compiler, it's giving it a hint to try combining this code into other code. So anything that's calling the multiply is not going to call this function. At least in most cases it shouldn't. It's still up to the compiler to decide, but it will try to. It'll certainly consider it in this case. But that means that it's going to combine that code directly into the other part. Now, even if I did, it's still just going to take the value and convert this over and then do the multiplication. So we've got the values and it's doing modifications to it. I don't think it's going to understand, or the compiler has a chance to understand that difference. This is one of the things I don't like about C++ so far. When I've been working with it and trying to get performance out of it, most of the things that you can do to try to get performance when you understand caching. Okay, let's back up even farther. A lot of the systems that operate inside of memory, in your RAM, in the hardware, in how memory gets moved around on the CPU, in a lot of the instructions are actually built because programmers are lazy. The hardware, in order for the hardware to be faster and more noticeable in a difference to users, means that instead of just trying to build hardware that is much faster, they need to build hardware that deals with bad programming practices. So for instance, in RAM, there's different sets of registers in the RAM. They're not called registers. I don't know what they're called, but it's basically getting your RAM memory from different spots. And now when you request memory, it can request from each of those different sectors data from each of them simultaneously, and it'll be able to stream that out of it very quickly when it comes from different spots in the RAM. But most programmers don't operate that. Most programmers operate by putting all their stuff into arrays. It would be a little more complicated to start structuring it to match RAM, especially when you're going into different RAM systems that might have different sizes allotted to these. And so it kind of makes sense, but we could also have that information passed upwards so the software could take a look at it and deal with it and understand that information. But it's not. So the hardware ends up passing all of our addresses into basically a like an XOR table that just makes it randomly look like it's randomly assigned to a different spot in memory. And it increases the chances that information will be taken from different sections of RAM, which means that it can read from the RAM faster. So if we were to take direct control of that, now that also means that if we don't control that, there is the chance that the random numbers of where it takes that information from could all come from the same register. Or I keep calling it register. I don't know what the term for it is, but it can keep coming from the same spot, and we don't get to dictate that. But anyway, same thing with caching systems. Once pulling it to RAM into the CPU, that information can take a long time. Uh, when we're talking about like a square root might take 7 to 20 uh, CPU cycles to complete. Your processor does like 2 billion in a second, 4 billion in a second for one core. Um, a square root does like 20. It takes 20 cycles to do that. A single read cycle to get that value is going to take 400 to 100 to 400 CPU cycles. And so if we can pull our memory in much more efficient patterns where the memory is sequential in how it comes in and where it gets pulled from, in our numbering, in our array, then the CPU can drive it faster. If it comes in sequence, then the CPU already understands we've been reading it in sequence. So let's ask for something ahead of time, and the memory is already loaded up, so we don't have to wait that 100 to 400 CPU cycles for the memory to be ready. Anyway, so aggressive inlining is available here, and so that means the function would get tied together, but the compiler is likely not going to be intelligent enough. Oh, and what was I was saying about C++? C++ doesn't put any of that trust, even for that layer, into the developers. When you do recasting of types, that's generally considered UB, undefined behavior, which is the kind of thing where the compiler is just going to make up whether or not it's going to actually do some of the hacks you put into there. They're not hacks. In assembly, it'll operate perfectly and it'll be faster and more efficient. So game engines like Unreal and Unity will actually take advantage of undefined behavior because they understand how it's supposed to work on the compiler level, or not the compiler, the assembly level that the processor uses. I am going way off on a tangent here. This is not important. Okay, but yeah, that does mean that most likely when I have the multiplying sequence in my freight, uh, rearranging this in the other order is actually going to be faster by having the floats on this side and the vector 3 on the other, all the way at the right side. Okay, so we are adding force to the vehicle when the state reaches chaos. That's what we were looking for, and we want that gravity to be in there. So now we should have gravity. It should have a car. It's going to need the car associated with it. So let's make sure we have the freight, and we're going to associate the car with the field there. Save it. Control S twice to save it. Save the project as well and play. Now, instead of just floating off into space, which is actually kind of reasonable in this game for the anti-gravity factor, I'm just going to click this. Okay, yeah, gravity's working. But that was a pretty weak gravity. The multiplier was not effective. Let's increase that. Or maybe I should put this on impulse. Where's that? Add force impulse. Oh, dot add force. And the mode that we're adding it to is force mode dot impulse. Acceleration might be the right one to use. But let's just test it out and see which one will feel right, because we don't need things to be accurate in a game. We just need them to feel right. All right, play. Of course, when we're working with physics, a lot of times it helps for it to be entirely accurate to begin with. All right, so there we are. And now let's activate this. Okay. Then that was no longer enough force. Gravity force 100. Let's change that to 10. That's more what I'm expecting, and play. Of course, I don't have the mass in here. That has nothing to do with the amount of force being applied to this. Play. it tried to launch it off, but it wasn't enough to knock it off. But that's okay. That's actually kind of what I want here. Now I need that additional explosive force to be added that I was talking about earlier. So I go into car and not car, freight. And on the freight, when we set this, we got the chaos, set chaos. We want to set an explosive force, add explosive force. That's it right there. We're going to change this up to 1,000. I should make that a field that I can tune. If I have to change it one more time, I'm going to. Play. All right, I've got freight selected, activate. It wasn't enough force to kick it off of there. So now we're going to change this and we're going to make a field for that. So in that one, we are multiplying it by, there we go, 1,000 for the explosive force. We're going to set this to public. If I'm adding the explosive force, I wanted to add it at the point where we are attaching on. And it's not the car, it's going to be the anchor. So in this case, I do want that anchor back, but the anchor doesn't technically align to where I'm expecting at this point. Nor is it going to at that point. Okay. So yeah, we'll just say public float explosive force equals 1000 F. Public float. We're taking this force and we're applying its position from half a meter below. Let's change it to 0.1. That'll capture more of that force being applied. This should also be tunable, but I don't have a field name for it yet. I've got a compiler error. What is it? Oh, right there. Start creating another one. Explosive force. Oh, I never applied this, so that one. And get rid of this too. Ah, what do you... Why? Ugh. Okay, this is part of what I mean about how I have trouble capturing rider. I tried to click over here on float, but because I had done when I did that, a menu item popped up over here, and I was just trying to click right over here. But as I did it, all of a sudden more appeared under my mouse, and I clicked on it before I realized that it was there. So when I did that, instead of it actually putting the text here, so I click away from it, and I clicked away into the text. I would have expected the cursor to show up here, but it didn't. So when I started typing, it wasn't here. And so it's little things like this that keep throwing me off in Rider, and I find it a pain. Visual Studio does not fall to that one. Visual Studio has other issues with it. So I'm not trying to say Visual Studio is perfect. I don't like using Visual Studio if I don't have to. I prefer using Rider. But there are some issues with Rider that are not as high of quality. And I'm sure there's plenty of stuff with Unity or with Visual Studio that's not as high of quality as Rider. All right, so we got this one. Save it. Explosive force is now settable. Return to Unity, which should have been compiling behind the scenes, but it didn't. What's the point of having Rider attached if I've already saved those changes a while ago? All right, save that. Why can't I see? Why don't? Oh, right there. Oh, okay, cool. All right, so what have we got now? Let's move over to... Yeah, let's move to Vigilante. Okay, perfect. All right. So where am I? What did I leave off with in the code? Why is that not doing anything? Oh, it is. Good. Force, we got it set to 1,000. Let's play it and try it. Now I won't need to compile when I test this again. Let's trigger the chaos with this at 1,000. Not useful. All right, let's try it up to 10,000. Play. That had less effect. Why? Okay, well, first off, let's take that cube and realign it so its idle, its stuck position is a little bit above and not colliding and not forcing the other platform down. We just want that fixed anyway. So now play. Okay, there. That is able to hold on. Back up there. Hey, wait, can I fly over this? Oh, that has no collider with it at all right now. Let's move to here and yeah, I just go straight through it. All right, now let's explode the other one. What? The explosive force affected the... That's not what I wanted. I told it to apply an explosive force. Does that mean... Does Unity apply explosive force to everything? Does Unity rigid body apply explosive force? Apply that force to all rigid bodies in range, or just the one you call it on? Okay, so applies a force to the ground, blah, blah, blah. However, the function is zero is passed to the radius. The explosive force modeled, well, let's look at this. Explosive force, that's the force position radius. The radius of the sphere within which the explosion has its effect. It feels like it would be weird if it were to have a system in there that somehow takes the rigid body, this explosive force, and applies it to a bunch of other things. However, when I use the gravity, did I use gravity normal for that? The gravity normal, I can use that one and do the reverse of it. Okay, let's try that. Explosive force should be the gravity normal, but what way does it do it? I use transform up. Oh, I actually do want transform up. No, because I'm applying the explosive force. That's how far off it's going. I can just say body position minus transform up because I'm subtracting it. I was doing a double negative there. I was applying it above it. So I'm smashing it down. The fact that it receives that force and then the other object was pushing it back. I think that must have been what was triggering it. Okay, physics bug. And play. Oh, the explosive force numbers might be way too massive at this point. Okay, yeah. Let's start changing the force numbers. We're going to change the gravity force to 25, and we're going to change this one to 100, which is probably way too low. Let's go to 1,000. Now we'll keep it up high. Not 1,000,000. 100,000. And let's see what it's like for this one. I think it hit the ceiling. Yeah, that number was too big. All right. We're going to try 20. 20,000. All right, play with a gravity force of 25. I think the gravity force felt right. That's way too big of a number. All right, pause, stop. And now let's change this. So the explosion, will keep it at 10,000. And we're going to change the gravity force. If I'm changing the gravity force and I'm decreasing it, then I probably want the explosive force to be reduced as well. Let's go to 5,000. All right, and on this one, we're going to go to 5. Control S and play. We can definitely play with gravity in this one and have the gravity not feel right. But since all of these have their own gravity physics, and it's the technology itself. So let's... Whoa. Yeah, the platform launched it up. That was unexpected and interesting. Okay. Ooh. So by accident, I think I just developed another physics. If I allow the physics from a car getting close to apply counterforce, usually the cars are just pushing off of each other. Oh, but it's got a car. No, I'll use the distance. If I use the distance between the car and this to determine if it should be applying a force on it, like it's got its own explosive force that it's applying externally, then that will cause this to launch down and I could get it to fire back. I could have that be a special upgrade that as I get up to one, I can hold a button down that's maybe causing an external force. And then all of a sudden those things correct when I let go and my car goes flying. And so I'm basically jumping. Okay. That's cool. So let's go back to this and we're going to try that one more time. And I got to see what numbers do I want to tune on this. We have 5,005. Okay. Gravity is too light. We're going to go back to 20. Play. It's just like, get off. Oh my God, that's awesome. Let's do it again. I just want to see that work. Oh, I changed the state to chaos while it was an editor. Ah, that's not what I wanted. Stop. Change this back to lock onto trailer, play. Why was the update executing in editor? It was fixed update. It was implementing the physics. No. Hey. Oh, I turned off kinematic. I changed all those settings. Play. All right. Apply the changes. Launch it off. Oh, and it corrected to that wall. Interesting. That's not going to happen once it's hooked up to the trailer as a cargo item. Okay, but I have cargo physics here. So that part is working exactly as I was expecting. These freight cubes, when I steal them from the trains, I can drop them off at different places, and I can effectively start Minecrafting the world. I can set up spots to act however I want. Ah, not what I meant. And what about you? You have a collider. Yes, and I can collide with you. I don't want to test that. Can I get back on top of that thing again? Go, go. No, no. It's hard to do. All right. Oh, whatever. That was an alternative thing I was considering. Just moving that thing around. Get out of here. Okay. Oh, that's kind of jarring. Okay, the numbers are reasonable enough because that's supposed to be accompanying a blast. So let's actually change the explosive force. Let's put that up to say, yeah, keep it as is because it's going to have a hit from the car as well when it turns that on. Oh, that means that when it collides, let's go with women. All right, I'm going to try to cut this out in about 20 minutes. All right, so instead of being triggered by chaos, I need the collider to currently be in a trigger state, which means I'm also going to need to know that one. So let's go back to our freight code, and now I need the collider, public collider. I don't care what type of collider it's using. In this case, a box collider, but my code doesn't need to know that. Collider. All right. So now on this one, we're going to set the collider. So what is this? This dot collider dot is trigger equals false. Okay, now what was the code to respond to a trigger? That was on, let's go to here. Public void on collision enter. Okay, so on collision enter, I believe that's right. I think on collision enter is called when a collider or rigid body has begun touching another. This function can be a coroutine. Not what I need for this one. All right, so inside of this one, when these two collide, then I want to turn, that's on collision enter. So I want to know if it was the car that hit it. Actually, that's the only thing that should. So the element, there should be a design strategy that nothing else is supposed to bump into it. No, the player cars, the non-playable cars could bump into it. So in this case, I do want to find out that it actually is the object type of importance. It needs to have the driver on it. Okay, so if driver dot we're going to say collision dot get dot transform collision dot, no, what are we colliding with? The collider we hit. Good. Collision dot collider dot get component, and we're going to get this is the driver, car driver. Good. And we need to own this. Var driver equals. Good. Now that we've got the driver, if driver equals null, we're expecting it could be null in this case. So I'm going to say equals, and we will return if we don't actually have a driver. However, if it is the driver, then that means we controlled this. All right, if driver equals null, collider. Oh. Okay, so we have a driver in this case. So now I'm going to say driver dot is trigger. No. This is on collision enter, so we're going with the other collider. So here we have collision dot collider dot is trigger equals false. It is no longer a trigger. It has been turned back into a physics object. So in this case, it's the car, the freight. The freight we don't want to be a trigger anymore. That's us. Okay, so not to do with the collision. That is our collider. All right. So we're just going to go this dot collider is trigger equals false. And then we're going to say set chaos. Oh, this one should just be set inside of there then. Control X, because that's part of the logic of what happens when we change this. Okay, so now let's see what happens when we drive into it. I have to actually hit the freight, so I'm going to come up from this side. Oh, I might be pushing off of the freight too. So let's go to here. If I come in from this side, it just hit the actual object. Oh, no. Got a little bit. Hey, that's absolutely colliding. Oh, variable body freight has not been assigned. The collider. Okay. So on here we have collider has not been assigned. That is box collider. So it's trying to use it. That should have only been being used inside of the... No, it gets used inside of the other one. It seems to indicate that it was working or it was calling what I was expecting it to do. But I had a null reference. There. Oh, it hit. But we still got... No. Variable body has not been assigned. Body has not been assigned. Body is absolutely assigned. There's body. Wait, isn't that me? Why didn't it highlight this one? What? If I select this body, it goes to freight. But it didn't actually highlight that thing. If I select box collider, hey, didn't the Unity IDE used to highlight the actual component when you select the component on here as well? If it's from the same object, why is that gone? Because this feels like it's telling me something is wrong here. So I'm just going to take the rigid body and drag that back into body. Okay. Save everything. Play. I wish this were easier to test. Okay, I collided with it. But then what? No. Pause. Go up to the top. What's my first one? Okay, this has a different set chaos. This dot collider trigger equals false. And it's indicating the collider is not there. Okay, the variable of collider of freight has not been assigned. It's assigned. It is absolutely assigned. It is right there. This is freight. And what does this actually apply to? What game object? Car. Wait a minute. Oh, I have a freight script on here. Remove. The car isn't freight. How did that get there? I don't know. Stop. All right. Get rid of this. Remove. Yes, it's going to be throwing lots of errors. Okay, now play. Let's just see what happens now that that's gone. Time is it? About 10 more minutes. Wait, I didn't get any explosive force. And it's definitely embedded inside. Get over this way. I don't have strafing enabled on this model. That's okay. Okay, so this was not doing any of the stuff that I expected, but let's go over to freight. Let's see what's been set. So in this one, it's still kinematic. It doesn't think that any collision happened. Isn't it the rigid body that would be triggering? Is the rigid body enabled? It's on there. Well, it's kinematic. Okay. Set chaos. So on collision enter, was there a different one? Let's go back to, let's just look this up. All right. Unity on collision enter. Now I'm fighting with what seems like it should be a simple problem to make this work. Is a unit event called automatically when the collider or rigid body attached to a game object first comes into contact with another? Is it called from both directions? Key behavior is triggered once at the start of a collision. It requires both objects to have colliders, and one must have a non-kinematic rigid body. Okay, so in the current state, the freight is kinematic rigid body. The car is, where's my gravity there, rigid body, is a non-kinematic rigid body. Okay, so one of them is a non-kinematic rigid body. Passes a collision object containing different details like contact points. Yes, okay. Works only if the collider's is triggered property is unchecked. Otherwise, it's on trigger enter. Duh. On trigger enter. Let's just add that up here. Collider other. We'll get rid of that one. We're going to just get rid of this stuff here. Delete. There. Other. Bingo. That one should theoretically trigger. Play. Five more minutes till I call it a night. There. Okay. That did what I expected. Like this could be tuned and improved, but generally speaking, that was doing what I expected. In that case, this script is coming to a close for now for this feature. Let me actually double check that. So when I was in here, let's go to Asana. Vigilante tasks. And the one that I'm working on is create a freight cube. The actual requirements: script gets its own physics. If it moves less than X in a turn, then the physics force turns off. Rigid body already does that. But I had a reason I wanted that one to be in there. That's right. Okay, so needs an update inside of it. So we're going to say if fixed update, is that it? Yeah, I guess so. We're going to store the previous position. So public float, public vector 3 previous position equals, I'll just leave it. Okay, now inside of here, when we set chaos, we're also going to say previous position equals vector 3 dot 0. Dot infinity. I just need it to be something that is not going to be normally. Now, during fixed update, if previous, oh yeah, if we're in chaos, that's what we wanted to check. So we add the force. Now, before we add the force, we want to check to see if we need to. If there's no movement at all from the object, then that's just fine. All right, so now we're going to say if previous, what are we looking at? Body dot position equals previous position. Then in that case, we're going to exit this one early, but we're going to set this dot state equals state dot stuck. This is telling it to not move anymore. And at this point, we're at where we want it to go. And so we are going to return out of this. We don't need to do anything else inside of here. I suppose this should be wrapped in an else statement, but we'll leave it at that. Okay, so that puts us into stuck. The body shouldn't move. I don't want the body to have any effect anymore. So I'm going to say body dot How can I disable enabled this dot body dot enable dot set? What do I tell? Oh, is kinematic dot is kinematic equals true. So that just frees it up again or locks it into place until I come back to collide with it. So in this case, let's go put everything else back. So these items that I was setting, oh, I've got that in there twice. Set collider, delete. All right, these two items need to be set to true when this is happening. So true and true. Okay, this should be good. Save it and return to the game. This should be everything, and I can validate that it's working by taking a look at the state inside of the inspector. So inside of here, let's play. Oh, yeah, it's running, and now I need to run into it. So let's... There. I knocked that off. Now I'll just hang out over here for a second, and now let's take a look at the actual freight. The freight should have gone into a stuck mode. I'm never resetting the position. Stop. Nothing's going to happen there. So that means on this one, we add the explosive force. The body, the previous position should be here. So previous position equals body dot position. Okay. That's when it's in chaos mode, we're detecting for this. All right, so returning, I'm modifying a script that's running in the game, but the game is not running. It's not in play mode. Did I actually save it? Let's try it and hope that correction actually took. Okay, we got the cube sitting there now. The cube is in stuck position. Okay, so theoretically, when I bump into it, it should... Wait, what's happening? Did it go into chaos again? Oh, look at that. That moved it, but the freight's not marked as in chaos. It's marked as in is kinematic. Gravity's really going out there. Wait a second. So it's gravity normal. Yeah, I'm applying a force. That's in the gravity normal against its world position. So it should be operating whatever the gravity direction is. It'll keep going no matter what its rotation is. All right. Chaos. It does switch to chaos. Okay. But then it settles back into this pretty quick. Good. Oh, got it. And once it lands, I actually want it to stay there. So this one is up here on trigger. So we're going to say if state equals, if this dot state equals stuck, then return. Okay, so the objective on the stuck is that if it's stuck, it's supposed to stay there, and we can actually treat it as something to drive over, even if we smash into it at that point. there's going to be an action button to re-enable this, and that's not part of this task. Okay, this task is done. I can close up Rider. I can close up Unity. All right, stop the game. Save it. That is working. Actually, yeah, let's keep it like that. And then if I were to duplicate this and go Control D, I just want to do one quick test here. Take this one and put it up high. Its natural gravity wants to drop back down towards the ground. So let's hit play. I want to see if the two cubes fall in different directions. Okay, because this one is attached to the ground, or it should be pointing towards the ground. I go to that, and it wants to fall down that way. That makes sense. The other one, because I'm going to hit it over here, yep, there it is right there. And now when I run into it, it should no longer bump this. Uh-oh, did that put that back into chaos? Okay, that seems to be moving and popping out of there, so something is not right. Okay, this game just got a little trippier. Not the bug that I'm running into at this point, but the fact that gravity falls in multiple directions when we actually see what appear to be things that aren't. That feels a little more disorienting because I saw gravity land over here first, and now gravity is landing over here, and that whole experience feels off and not necessarily in a comfortable way. Those two, look at that. That's still the parenting. Oh, I never unparented it. So if the object above it moves, the collider moves too. So I need to unparent it. Okay. Yeah, the freight is set as a child of car. So if car moves, then the freight moves. If I bump the car, then the car wobbles and so does the freight. And that's also why the freight ends up getting stuck inside the terrain. Okay, because the other item's still settling and still moving. So back into the code. Where'd the code go? Code went away. Freight. Because I closed it because I thought I was done. All I need to do is just disable the item that's on here. What its parent. This object's parent. Okay, so on trigger set chaos, we're going to deactivate the parent. We're going to say transform dot set parent null. And now it should land stably. It should not be sunken partially into any of the surfaces, and it should remain where it was once it stops. So play. And this is the final thing. I meant to be shutting down 8 minutes ago. All right. It should have been working by now. All right, so let's go see if I can bump into that one. There, I bumped into it. it landed on this side. And it didn't wobble, it didn't reactivate it. There, stop. That's still holding on because I only hit the child element. That should correct itself. There. And now gravity landed on the correct ways from both sides. And because this is interactable for forces on those sides, that means both of the other cars, the trailers, those ones are acting, those are ones are interacting with the cubes they just dropped. Okay, good. The physics playground is working as expected. Stop. Freight cube has been solved for that particular spot in the code. I am done. Good night. All right, where is my OBS so I can actually close it off? OBS, stop streaming.